there is zero difference between this and transgenderism. It's the same thing. The cutting off your legs to become an amputee is less extreme and, by comparison, healthier. All right, here's something I want to play. It's a bit tough to watch. Nothing graphic is seen, but so more tough to listen to. But this is a report from the New York Post. Listen.
This is a new one for me. I've just been discharged from hospital, and I was admitted unwell with sepsis of unknown cause, but there were some complications of my hospital treatment, and I lost both my legs below the knees.
This 49-year-old vascular surgeon was once named the bravest in Britain after he had to amputate both of his legs. But now Neil Hopper, who performed hundreds of amputation operations of his own, has pleaded guilty to 2 fraud charges after he told insurers that his legs needed to be removed because of sepsis and not because of his self-inflicted injury. According to reports from inside the courtroom, Hopper actually froze his own legs with ice and dry ice to ensure his legs would be removed. In insurance claims totaling more than $625,000, a friend of Hopper allegedly told him to milk the payout. The now former surgeon spent some of the money on a $30,000 camper van and $340,000 on home improvements and a hot tub. According to testimony laid out against Hopper in court, the surgeon wanted his legs to be chopped off because of an obsession with removing parts of his own body and a sexual interest in doing so. In a disturbing twist to the story, the Welsh surgeon also admitted to possessing extreme pornography. Investigators found that between 2018 and 2020, Hopper bought 3 videos from a now-defunct webpage called the Eunuch Maker, an extreme body modification site which showcased disturbing mutilation live streams and videos. Hopper was reportedly identified during investigations into the website's creator, Marius Gustafsson. Gustafsson made over $400,000 by showing his website's roughly 22,000 subscribers gruesome videos of him mutilating the bodies of apparently willing volunteers.
All right, well, sorry I had to share that with you. So this guy had both of his legs removed on purpose. Obviously a very confused person. I mean, you could even say that he's stumped, but but look, getting his legs removed, that was his, I will say that was his right and his left. So he's got one foot out the door and the other one too, so, and he tried to, he's in prison, as I mentioned, 2 years in prison, but he tried to defend himself in court, but he, he didn't have a leg to stand on, literally. Okay. I was saying, I'm just practicing my stand-up routine. I'm going to go on the road as a stand-up. As you can tell, I got a real talent. And I'm going to go on the road, and it'll just be puns. It'll just be puns about amputees. That's the whole bit. That's a killer act right there. Anyway, all right. I did want to make, what point did I want to make besides the dad joke? There's the obvious one, which is that, there is really zero difference. There is zero difference between this and transgenderism. It's the same thing. Except that we put people in jail for this, and we condemn them. We condemn this behavior. There is no one saying that we should normalize it or affirm it, certainly, or take it seriously. But it's the same thing. It's a very small minority of people who feel like they're in the wrong body, who feel like they'll be made whole, they'll be made complete through extreme body modification, and who in many cases get a sexual thrill out of it. Same idea, same concept. It's body dysmorphia. I mean, that's what it is. It belongs in the same bucket. It's the same psychiatric category. It is the same disorder, just manifested in a slightly different way. In fact, the only difference really is that the case I just played for you, this is less extreme. That's the only difference. The cutting off your legs to become an amputee is less extreme and, by comparison, healthier. So when people see this, they'll say, oh, slippery slope. First we normalized transgenderism, And now we have this crazier thing that came along. No, actually, no. By all rights, if we were on a slippery slope, it should have been this was normalized first, and then you get to transgenderism. I mean, this is still very extreme and very unhealthy, obviously, but by comparison, less so. Why is that? Well, for the pretty self-evident reason that a man who wishes to become legless can actually be legless. You know, he goes through the body modification, and now he actually is the thing that he wanted to be. The illness, the delusion, is in the fact that he wanted it, right? It's in the fact that he desired it. The problem is that he desired to be this thing, but he can actually be it. When somebody says, "Oh, I wish to have no legs," well, your answer to that is, or should be, well, that's a bizarre thing to want. You shouldn't want that. But you wouldn't say, "Oh, well, that's impossible. You can't be that." And yet, on the other hand, a man who chops off body parts to become a woman isn't actually a woman after the extreme modification. The disorder is both in the wanting, the wanting to become a woman, and in thinking that it's been done, that he actually has become a woman. So it is deeply disordered on two levels rather than just one. And that's why I've made this point about the slippery slope argument that, we talk about slippery slope. I've talked about it. It's kind of a shorthand way of describing a certain sort of phenomenon. And there's a lot of truth to it. But the basic, when we talk about slippery slope, all we're pointing out is that, someone that there's something that's being normalized or that we're being told we have to accept or tolerate, affirm, celebrate, welcome, whatever. And there are arguments being made in favor of that thing, whatever it is. And when we make the slippery slope argument, all we're saying is that, well, okay, these arguments that you're making to defend, affirm, promote this thing, I could take those arguments intact. I could take them totally whole and use them to also argue for XYZ other thing. And these other things over here, you would even agree are bad. So you're making an argument in support of something that you like, but I could take that exact argument and change nothing and use it logically to defend this other thing over here that even you think is bad. And the point of that argument is if the argument is true, if it's valid, which it almost is when conservatives make it, what it proves is that either the thing that they are promoting, the thing that they're arguing for, is wrong, and or the arguments they're using are bad arguments. And in the case of the left, it's both. They're using bad arguments and to promote a bad thing. Or maybe it's not even a bad guy. It's more like the thing they're arguing for is bad. The argument that they're using is the best one available, but it's terrible because it's arguing for a terrible thing. So that's all that the slippery slope is really proving. What it doesn't necessarily mean is that the next thing in line will be worse, because what we haven't, the slippery slope brings to mind this idea that, okay, well, we'll start with one kind of bad thing, and then because that's been normalized, we'll go to another thing that's a little bit worse, and then another thing that's a little bit worse than that, and another thing is a little bit worse than that, until we get all the way down the bottom of the slippery slope, and it's just total anarchy and chaos and depravity. But what we find is that it doesn't usually work in that kind of really neat linear way. That, and this is what the left does, is they go for the most extreme version of the thing, whatever it is. They're going to go for the most extreme version of it, and they're going to try to get you on board to accept the most extreme version of it, and then all that other stuff just comes in the bargain. It's not like that's coming next. That's all part of it. That automatically they're sort of skipping ahead, right? We've talked about this with gay marriage, for example. When people say that, oh, slippery slope, that we accept gay marriage. Next thing you know, it's going to be polygamy. Well, polygamy is not nearly as bad as gay marriage. Polygamy is a much less extreme thing. In fact, polygamy there's a lot of historical precedent to polygamy. Polygamy historically, it made a certain kind of sense. You had to populate the earth, populating society, populating civilization, and this was one way to do it. So it's in accordance with nature in that it's productive, it's reproductive, procreative. So it's still wrong, but it's not nearly as disordered or wrong as gay marriage. So they went, when it comes to marriage, when it comes to messing with the definition of marriage, they went for the most extreme version of that, which is two men getting quote unquote married. And all the other stuff is just, you kind of circle back and cover that. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.